So for our first presentation, so the theme of the show is makers. We want to really celebrate makers. And when makers imagine the future, sometimes they look for the past for inspiration. But the past isn't always as awesome or grand in scope as our brain remembers it. That's just nostalgia. Our first presenter tries to reconcile the effects of that nostalgia and reality with a really delightful art project. Please welcome to the stage graphic designer Nick Acosta.
I'd like to talk to you about film, TV, and Star Trek, three things that are very near and dear to my heart. Growing up, my dad raised me on all the classic noir films from the 40s and 50s. And when you go to the theater back then, this is how your picture looked. Sort of a rough square, no widescreen yet. And there's nothing wrong with this format. Some of the greatest films of all time are in this format. And then there was sort of an era of post-war inventiveness, and some dreamed for a more immersive theater experience. So they created Cinerama. Cinerama was this complex process of using 3 cameras, filming simultaneously on 3 rolls of film to create an enormous 146-degree field of view. But it was very complex and costly. It even had to be shown in specially modified theaters using 3 projectors, projecting onto this gigantic curved wall. The result is sort of this proto-IMAX experience. And you can see the picture wasn't perfect. You can see where one part of one film overlaps on another, and it wasn't very cost feasible. And it was eventually phased out for 70mm Panavision, which we still use a version of today. Which brings us to Star Trek. Listen, everything brings us to Star Trek. Star Trek is the reason I became an artist. Star Trek, the reason probably a lot of you are here today. And this is how I watched Star Trek reruns in the 80s. This is the actual TV and VCR we had in our house growing up. Back in the day where home theater electronics were made of wood and steel and weighed 60 pounds or more. And Star Trek to me always felt more real and more epic to me than just plywood sets and rubber alien masks. So recently, for its 40th anniversary, I went back to the original footage to show what Star Trek meant like to me. What would Star Trek look like in a more epic format? What would Star Trek look like in Cinerama? Ooh, I know. All right, let me show you how I did this, because I'm not just cropping in to make a letterbox picture. Star Trek was filmed in the old-style 4:3 TV format, very close to the old film format I showed you. But if you utilize shots where the camera pans across screen, you stitch together more and more visual information until you can build your own Cinerama shot. And the result, I think, is stunning. It's like you're standing on set with the actors now. And you start noticing fun little things, like the actor behind Kirk there is clearly Leonard Nimoy's stand-in that they rushed into the shot, complete with the bowl haircut. Going back further to the pilot with Jeffrey Hunter, it has this great gunmetal gray Forbidden Planet vibe. Tense moments and episodes are highlighted, like the final battle between the good Captain Kirk and the surprised evil Captain Kirk. Sets are beautifully framed now, despite the ridiculous set dressings and the fact that her makeup is clearly sweating off. Kirk running from the Gorn. Shatner actually looks very Chris Pine-ish in his youth there. We can finally see this shot that they staged and put so much time into, and now we can see in Cinerama what they were actually trying to do. The tragedy of Captain Pike in the box with the blinky light. The seductive intensity of Khan, the real Khan, played by the late great Ricardo Montalban. Kirk's angst comes through here that the only woman he could ever really love is the Enterprise. No beach for him to walk on. The weird tableau of beaming into the mirror universe. The alien Planet of the Week set, where all you have to do to go to another planet is change the colored light gels. The beautiful character lighting they put to sort of enhance the romanticism of spaceflight in the 60s. The weird alien cocktail parties they throw aboard the Enterprise, complete with the Play-Doh space food. We can now fully appreciate the debaucherous Harry Mudd and his android pleasure planet. And now with more and more tribbles. So this is Star Trek in Cinerama. One of the reasons I really did this was to showcase one of my heroes, production designer Matt Jeffries, and his beautiful designs for this colorful, futuristic submarine bridge of the 23rd century that we could finally appreciate. And just for this live show, I went back and think, what other shows from the 80s helped raise me that we could give an epic Cinerama treatment for? So we had the original Battlestar Galactica. A show that, in retrospect, feels like a light comedy compared to the real Galactica, but it still blew my mind as a kid. I know. One of my favorites, Airwolf. Airwolf, for all you, Airwolf was like Knight Rider, but with a helicopter. Of course, our friends at Mystery Science Theater. This show got me through many nights in art school. And to bring things full circle, back to Star Trek Next Generation. And I guess I want to say, wrapping up, that I hope I highlighted all the hard work that went into making these shows between the actors, designers, and producers. And that we can go back and sort of appreciate our classics. It just takes a little bit of looking. And that any show could be done like this. Sky's the limit. Thank you.